Start. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ab India Karega Invest, Groww's initiative to reach out to all of you on a weekly basis with an interesting topic every week. Today's topic is on a market conditions like this. What are some of the large cap opportunities we could look at? Okay. So to discuss on this today, we have Mr. Amey Sathe, who is the assistant fund manager from Tata Mutual Fund. So he's here to share his perspective. We would love to hear from you, sir. And then we also have Shikhar from Groww. Shikhar will take you through the Groww platform, how to use it, and what are the product features and so on. I am Karthik from Nawabs Learning Academy. So the flow of the program would be, I will start the session, then subsequently Amey ji continue karenge, and then शिखर आपको ग्रो प्लेटफॉर्म के बारे में बताएंगे. हम तीनों का सेशन होने के बाद हम क्वेश्चन आंसर्स आपसे, आपका जो भी सवाल है पूछा गया तो हम लेंगे. रिक्वेस्ट ऑल ऑफ यू टू पोस्ट एज मेनी क्वेश्चंस एज पॉसिबल. वी वुड लव टू टेक एंड आंसर मोस्ट ऑफ देम. Okay, so without further delay, let's start with the program. Talking about large cap opportunities, investment opportunities large cap में क्या हो सकता है? I think इसको इन डेप्थ में जाने के लिए आई वुड लीव इट टू मिस्टर अमेय, बट आई विल टॉक अबाउट ऐसी मार्केट कंडीशंस में लार्ज कैप की जरूरत क्यों है और कैसे लार्ज कैप्स ये वैल्यू ऐड कैसे ऐड कर सकता है, इज व्हाट आई विल कवर इन माय सेक्शन. इन जनरली कुछ चीजें ना लाइफ में माना जाता है बहुत बोरिंग है. दिस आर सम थिंग्स व्हिच आर बोरिंग, यू नो, लाइक गोइंग फॉर अ रन ऑन अ रेगुलर बेसिस एवरी डे, गेटिंग अप अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग, गो फॉर अ रन, या किसी एक प्लांट को सीड करके उसको हर रोज वाटर करना एंड देन उसको बचा के थोड़ा, यू नो, लाइक ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम वाचिंग इट टू ग्रो इनटू अ ट्री. काफी बोरिंग चीजें हैं, बट इट गिव्स यू लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट एंड वेरी गुड सस्टेनेबल लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट्स. आई पर्सनली थिंक मुझे लार्ज कैप भी ऐसे कुछ लगता है. लार्ज कैप एज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट विद इन द कैटेगरी इटसेल्फ लगता है इट्स अ रिलेटिवली बोरिंग एस्पेक्ट, यू नो, कंपेयर टू mid cap and small cap. जो excitement mid and small cap लेके आता है with the kind of volatility it brings in or the ability to generate returns. I think small caps are very exciting, right? But in the same way, large cap can be boring, you know, fairly consistent and reasonable returns and so on. But market conditions like this, why should we consider large cap? That's the question. You know, इसका relevance क्यों है? I personally think there are 4 points what we should keep in mind. One is we are just going through the pandemic. कुछ साइंटिस्ट ये भी बता रहे हैं endemic. That means slowly we are at the end of the pandemic. उस फेज में हैं हम लोग. Large and small cap का सिनारियो कैसा है? Second, large, mid and small across market cycles में कैसे परफॉर्म किया? How have they performed in the past in different market cycles? Can large cap add downside protection? And at the same time, कल ऐसा कोई market event होता है, then what is the liquidity situation? So this is 4 bullet points what I'm going to cover in brief. The first one being pandemic effect. Large cap में कैसे impact हुआ है और small cap में कैसे impact हुआ है? So if you look at September, December quarter, I mean, I'm sure it's slightly old, but if you see right now, the numbers would be much better. The overall profits generated by the listed companies itself have gone up considerably, right? Now the question is, अच्छा सारे listed companies का profit बढ़ा है या only selected set या selected categories का profit बढ़ा है या overall sales बढ़ा है, is what is important for us to see. So generally ऐसे large market data जब हम देखते हैं, it's important for us to dissect and see. Okay, so one of the data what you can see is सारे कैटेगरी का कंपनीज मान लीजिए NSE में करीब 2000 कंपनीज है. ये सारे 2000 कंपनीज को आप 10 buckets में कैटेगराइज करेंगे based on their size. Okay, the big companies, the larger companies, the decile 1, 2, 3 up to 4, if you see, उनका overall net sales for Q3 FY1 year on year actually बढ़ा है compared to the smaller size companies. If you look at smaller size companies, their overall sales has actually gone down, but the smallest of companies have actually lost their sales even to an extent of 40 to 60%. So what does this indicate? Last 1.5 years का जो भी कोविड का इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, the impact has been significantly large on small size companies compared to mid size companies, large size companies. Large size companies का जब आप देखते हो, in general they have grown in size, they have acquired bigger market share, and then probably all thanks to liquidity, overall cash position वगैरह भी काफी improve हुआ है. So that means this pandemic has not been so kind on small size businesses or small size companies, but it has actually helped the large size businesses to grow bigger. Okay, that is one of the biggest, like let's say, impact what this pandemic has done to different categories of company. So large caps have generally seen a smarter recovery compared to other two categories, right? So that is one point, pandemic impact. If that is what it is, then large caps already have a bigger base. Then sustaining growth from here should not be too difficult. And second, and the very important point, how is large cap, mid cap, small cap have performed in different market cycles? So यहाँ पे आप जो data देखते हैं, from 2006 calendar year till 2020 end of calendar year, how each of the categories, that is green में जो आप देखते हैं, that is small cap, whereas the one what you see in brownish color is Sensex, that is large cap indices. One very important and a prominent takeaway here is large cap का जो volatility जो है ना, वो बहुत कम है compared to mid and small cap. Small cap and mid cap का volatility काफी ज्यादा है, and then small cap volatility is highest. This is where I personally feel, this is my personal take, investments in small cap generally seasonal in nature. मतलब क्या time में अच्छा रहता है, what is the right time to invest, what is the right time to exit makes a very important point in small cap. Whereas large cap jo hai, that's generally treated as an all season fund. That means you could be part of this investment, or large cap could be part of in your investment portfolio, almost any market conditions for that matter. Okay, so look at 2008. The losses were significantly higher in small cap, but at the same time, the gains were also significantly high in 2009. You will see similar kind of correlation all through. Okay. So that's why it's very important to have large cap in our portfolio. So not just that, and also let's look at the downside protection. This downside protection kya hai? Whenever markets are going down or markets are very choppy, how is your large cap performed versus mid and small cap? That is also very important. So whether like let's say look at scenario like 2011. 2011 when markets were down by 42% for small cap and 34% was the losses for mid cap, whereas if you see large cap, the losses were about 24%. So that means losses are least when markets are going up. Look at scenario maybe like 2009 or 2018, 2019 or 18. Mid and small caps are in negative returns, whereas large caps are done well. Okay, but at the same time, in a phenomenal year like 2021 or 2009 or 2000, like let's say 12, you would see a different trend where large cap is actually lagging behind mid and small cap. So it's very important for us to understand. So it's like saying that in good times you do exceedingly well, but at the same time, in bad times also do exceedingly bad, then the risk of the overall portfolio increases drastically. That's why it's important for us to understand. It is not just giving great returns in good markets. It's also important for us to protect us from the downside. This is what large caps would do. Okay. And finally, and one very important element here is that on the liquidity side. Okay. So as of April 2021, Bombay Stock Exchange has notified almost close to 300 stocks as a liquid stock. Right. अभी का सिनेरियो में एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल दूं, मेरा खुद का पोर्टफोलियो में there are some small cap stocks which have done exceedingly well, but few stocks I'm trying to sell, there are no buyers in the market. So which means in small cap category, even though if you would have done exceedingly well, you should have suitable buyers to sell those stocks. Not all small cap stocks are generally would carry good or a reasonable liquidity. Okay, which is not the case for large cap, right? I mean, large cap, मान लीजिए कल ऐसे कोई market event हुआ, so markets are probably going through a big turmoil, then small cap stocks might not find as much as liquidity compared to large cap. So that's why it's important holistically जब आप देखते हो, it's important to have a decent allocation to large cap as a asset class. This helps in reducing risk, downside risk कम होता है, volatility कम रहता है, and then it also gives you better liquidity. So that's why I personally think large cap should be part of your all season portfolio. या इसको हम core portfolio भी बोल सकते हैं. So on that note, on that brief introduction, I would like to call Mr. Amey Sathe to take it forward from here.
Hey, thanks, Karthik. You explained it quite beautifully, the price impact of large caps. So what I will try to cover in my presentation is that the how to look at the businesses of large cap and why the large cap sort of stocks are critical from a portfolio perspective. I'm just sharing my screen. Yeah. So just one basic thing to start with. If you look at a large cap stock, a large cap fund, actually, 80% of the holding should be in a large cap stocks only. So now, if you look at the number of stocks which are listed on NSE or BSE, there are almost 5,000 stocks. So what one has to do is that rank it as per the market cap, and whatever the first 100 stocks, 80% of the portfolio has to come from those large cap stocks. And that list is sort of refined every 6 months, depending upon the average market cap of the those companies in the previous 6 months. So if you go to AMFI website, you will see the list available, which are the large cap stocks, which are the mid cap stocks, and which are the small cap stocks. So to understand a large cap fund, since 80% of the holding of the large cap funds come from large cap stocks, it is actually important to understand what is large cap as a category or as a business. Clearly, large cap as a fund category gives us a very decent exposure to some of the well-run, well-established blue chip sort of what we call companies across various sectors. Having said that, one standard disclaimer: not necessarily all large cap companies are well-run or probably will qualify on corporate governance. But you can say that large proportion of the companies are definitely sort of will be eligible for in terms of a category of good. That much I can say. So what are the three things that we look at with respect to large cap businesses? I think there are three important points that to analyze and to understand why large cap are what they are. First point, if you look at, is that these big companies or the mega companies, as we call, they have a price power, and they also withstand difficult times quite easily. We have seen in this in the past. We have seen in last year itself, not so long, when COVID hit us badly. We clearly saw a lot of these big companies survived quite comfortably. We have seen this during a period of 2013 when there was a taper tantrum. At that point also, we clearly saw some of the big companies sort of came out unscathed. Similar show was put up by some of these big companies or large companies in 2009. So what is this pricing power? Probably we can spend 1 or 2 minutes on each line. I'll just try to explain with some bit of examples. Pricing power is nothing else but the ability of the company to extract value or extract pricing from the customer because of his quality, because of his brand, and the brand that creates a trust in the minds of customer. Or probably I will give one example of this year itself. So when the commodity prices were going up this year, because of when crude oil was going up from say $30 to say $60-$70, if you look at the paint industry, so a lot of smaller players as well as unorganized players were unable to sustain that increase in commodity prices. And when they tried to pass it on to the customer refused because these guys probably did not have the brand or did not have the quality. But there was one probably well-run large paint company which is listed. They were able to take price hike quite consistently and without impacting the volume. So that is what the pricing power of the company is. Similarly, if you go to say medical shop and if you are buying a generic medicine, you look at the medicine, and when you look at a familiar name like say Cipla or Sun Pharma, you are more comfortable buying that medicine, even if it is costing you say 5 to 10% more compared to a name which probably you have not heard of it. So that is a prime example of pricing power. So these big companies over a period of time, they create a brand for themselves. They create that trust in the minds of customers, and that is how they are able to get that pricing power. And their ability to strong in difficult times is, I think, is well noted. Again, one big example I can give you: last year in March 2020, when there was one private sector bank going through a problems. We saw that customers, a lot of people moving their deposits from that private sector bank to well-run large banks like SBI, ICICI, HDFC Bank. So that is what we can clearly see, that some of these big companies, they have survived, they have seen bad times, and they have come across, they have probably survived those battles with a lot of scars, but they have survived, and that is what makes them probably unique about their standing in the market. Second point, which I think is more relevant during the current times, is that the large corporates, they actually have three interesting things. One is that their revenue growth is quite consistent, they are predictable, and they don't see any volatility either in their revenues nor into their earnings. Again, one example, one private sector bank, very large private sector bank, they have been giving us 15 to 20% of loan growth for last almost now 15 to 20 years, and similar sort of earning growth for 15 to 20 years. So these are the sort of companies which generate revenues, margins, profitability pretty consistently without any fuss. And these are the stocks what we call, or probably I call, is as a low bandwidth stock. So these are the stocks which doesn't consume much of your time. You have to just go through the results once in a quarter, attend the conference call, probably meet the management once in 6 months, and that is good enough for you. They will do their job, and you should be quite comfortable with them. So this is one characteristic of a large company which generates a consistent revenue, and that is very important, because across the cycle, when a company generates a consistent revenue, that company is valued more than any other companies which are sort of have a boom and bust kind of a outcome in their either their revenues or on their earnings side. Second good thing is the ROE. As all of us know, that the valuation is determined by the ROE, that is a return on equity that the company is generating. So normally what happens is that some of these big companies, as they become from say small to mid-size to big, there are 3-4 things at play. One is that operating efficiency. Then you have to use, secondly is that your efficiency of capital. So because you have to use the same capital which doesn't require higher investments, and then that transfers into a sort of a better return on the equity. Third, as I said earlier, pricing power. As the brand becomes recognizable, brand gains popularity, their ability to charge the customer also improves. So some of the things actually result in a better ROE. So if a company, when it was an X kind of a revenue, if it is generating some bit of a ROE, that ROE can actually jump up by 3x or 4x when it becomes a 5x or 7x in terms of its size, and that ROE also becomes a sustainable. So what happens is that when that ROE is actually going higher and it is more sustainable, the multiple also expands. So that is also one benefit that investors can enjoy when they sort of stay invested in large cap companies. Again, one beautiful example, one large consumer company which is listed in India for last almost 30 years. 20 years back, they had a ROE of say X percentage. As we speak, that ROE has actually become a 3x of ROE that they were doing. And quite naturally, the multiples have also expanded. So that is also one sort of a strength of some of these big companies or large companies. As they attain a particular scale, ROE keeps improving, and that is how also drives your valuation of that company. That is why you would have seen that a lot of companies which were trading at say 20x or 30x when they're at half of their current size, now the similar multiple has gone to say 40x, 50x or 60x. So that is because their ability to generate a higher ROE, that too on a sustainable basis, has improved. And the last part is that the ability to generate free cash flows. Unfortunately, today's scenario where a lot of these loss-making companies are getting listed, somehow this ability to generate loads of free cash flow is sort of underappreciated. But I will tell you that cycles do change, and when there are tough times, this ability probably gets maximum attention and maximum value. And why it is important? Cash flows help company or the investors. First of all, these cash flows can be distributed as a dividend to the investor. Probably you can ask any investor who would have invested in some of these cash flow rich companies, IT or consumer or wherever, and kind of dividends they are getting now if they would have invested say 8 years or 10 years back. So that dividend investor can reinvest, that can generate additional revenue for them or additional return for them, or companies can use that free cash flow to go for acquisition or do a share buyback or whatever. But ability to generate free cash flow is extremely important quality to have. And you will see most of these large companies, big corporates, mega companies have that ability to generate free cash flow at a large scale. So this is what makes some of these companies quite unique and attractive from a investing perspective. And the last, probably the another important and probably one of the most important point is that the stability as well as the management width and breadth of the of those companies. So many times what happens is that in some of these mid cap or small cap companies, they are run by promoters. So not necessarily some bit of a professionalism is also lacking many of the companies. And not necessarily when promoter steps down, their ability to attract some of the talent from outside also is limited. And we have seen in the past, in many cases, wherever promoter sort of steps down and gets someone from the outside, there are always clashes. You would have seen recently in one of the case of one of the SAB or some of the other companies where we would have seen promoters sort of stepping in after some time. And that disrupts the business. But some of these large companies, you would have seen companies, say HUL, if you take an example, their management changes every 3 years, 4 years, but the business strategy doesn't change. Business strategy continues as it is, and company continues to chug along. I think that is what separates some of these large companies compared to mid and small companies. So just to summarize, what we discussed here is that large companies or the big companies, because of these unique characteristics, that is what makes them probably better in across the cycles, across the seasons, I will say. And that is why having the exposure to large cap stock, which are generally less volatile, they are more predictable, and that is why they provide a stability to the portfolio of investors. That is why having the exposure to large caps or large cap fund is actually a sort of a soothing effect on the overall portfolio performance side. So I've just created two case studies. So there is some bit of a argument you would have read कि अरे लार्ज कैप तो बड़े बनने के बाद उनकी ग्रोथ स्लो हो जाती है, उनका मल्टीपल भी कभी भी डीरेट होता है. Is that the case? So that's why I probably looked at the top 100 companies, and if I had to run this case study on those top 100, probably I can say 60 to 65% of companies will exhibit the similar outcome, which probably I'm going to discuss here. So there is one example of a large NBFC which is listed. So what I have done is that I have used the definition of mid cap and large cap here. So as of now, if you look at the 100 company as per the AMFI definition, that market cap is as I have put it as a cutoff market cap to call that company as a large cap. So 30,000 crore is the market cap of the 100 company in the Nifty on the exchanges. So this NBFC, it was listed from 2002. From 2002 to say 2014 October, it was sort of a small cap and mid cap. It generated 36% of CAGR in terms of shareholder return. The moment it became a large cap, the return is in front of you. It has generated 54% return. So this sort of removes a myth saying that the large cap sort of becomes slower in terms of return profile once they become a large cap. It is something not right. And again, I'm saying that not necessarily every large cap will be giving you this kind of outcome, but I will say 60 to 65% will definitely give you this kind of outcome. और हमारे business में क्या है? We need to be right only 51% of the time. We don't need to be right 100% of the time. That is mathematically also is impossible to be that case. But if you're right 51% of the time, job is done. Second case study is a paint company. Similar outcome, similar if you see, company is listed for now almost 25 years. Till it became a mid cap, it generated 27% CAGR. And when the moment it sort of became a large cap, it has generated almost 29% CAGR. And important point to remember here is that I am just talking about the stock price return. I have not taken into account the total return. That also includes the dividends. And I'm sure this paint company would have given a substantial amount of dividends to investors. I have not taken the reinvestment benefit that those dividends can accrue to investors. So the point here is that large cap companies, even after becoming a large cap, they can generate a substantial returns for the investors without much of a volatility that we see in mid cap and small cap space. So what is a point of looking at large cap in current scenario? So these are the two tables that I am trying to show here. So the top table, if you see, these are the returns that some of these major indices have given in last, say, 1 year, YTD, 6 months or 3 months, whatever the time frame you look at it. Clearly, I think Karthik also talked about that 2020 was the year of mid cap and small cap. Here also we can clearly see that mid cap and small cap have significantly outperformed large cap. And these are the cycles. They fall also like that, and from that low base they also rise also like that. So I'm not surprised by such kind of outperformance in this period. But as we go forward, normally this kind of underperformance of large cap is not sustainable. We always see there is a mean reversion for all three categories: large cap, mid cap, small cap. So considering if you look at, say, 1 year performance, Nifty has given 50% return, mid cap is given 63, and small cap is given probably almost 84%. So clearly there is a bit of a case that there will be a mean reversion. So you will see some bit of a correction happening in mid cap, small cap, probably some bit of a price increase movement in, say, large cap. That is where probably it also makes sense, especially in this environment when investors have enjoyed so much of returns in their mid cap and small cap portfolio, to probably switch some bit to large cap, where the returns are going to be more predictable, returns are going to be more steady, and returns are going to be less volatile compared to what they have currently, what investors can go through when they are invested in mid cap and small cap space. If you just come to the bottom, जो नीचे वाला chart है, वो उसमें we are trying to show the multiple of large cap, that is a Nifty 50, versus multiple of small cap and mid cap. So the red chart is the premium or discount that small cap currently has over the Nifty price to book. That is a ratio that we are using. So if you look, currently we are having almost closer to 170-180% kind of a premium over the large cap, and that used to be, if you just look at the start of the chart, which is like March 16, used to be sort of negative. So clearly it shows that from where we have come. So there is some bit of a sort of, again I said, mean reversion. Similar story is there probably on your right hand side chart, which actually covers a mid cap, which has sort of come back actually, but it used to be in discount if you look at the September 19 data. So clearly large caps I think will have benefit of doing well in coming months. And there are a few reasons also with the sectors that can drive some of these large cap increase that probably I will cover. So there are 4 sectors which I think that can, there we think there is a substantial value so there are 2 sectors where we think valuation is significantly comfortable, and there are 2 sectors where we think earnings growth can be quite strong. So the 2 sectors where we think valuation is going to be comfortable is going to be a large banks and power generation and utilities. I will spend some bit time on large banks because I also cover banking sector in Tata Mutual Fund along with managing the 2 funds. So what we are seeing is that after COVID, probably not after COVID, I will probably take you back 3-4 years before that. So demon happened in October 2016. So if you look at the economy, every year from 2016, economy has gone through substantial shocks. So October 2016, demon happened. 2017 was GST. Then 2018 we had IL&FS crisis. 19 we had Diwan crisis. March 2020 we had Yes Bank crisis, and last 1.5 years we have COVID crisis. So economy has gone through such a massive shocks in last 4-5 years that entire banking system's loan book has been sort of stress tested. Liabilities sort of stress tested. So if going forward for next 3-4 years, our economy doesn't get any shock, I'm not even saying that we need to grow at 10%. Even if we grow at say 6 to 7% for next say 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever time period you're looking at, some of these banks, they are first of all cheap in terms of any valuation metric that you look at. Secondly, their ability to generate substantial earnings is there. So profitability is significantly depressed because of the credit cost or the non-performing loans, non-performing assets that we talk about. If you look at the quantum that they have provided is huge. So almost 25 to 30% of loan book has gone bad, and they have provided almost 80% on that. So from here onwards, as COVID has also stress tested their retail portfolio, my sense is that some of these banks, if you look at their P multiples, they are trading at 8 times, 9 times. Some of the relatively some of the private sector banks are trading at 14 times, 15 times. And when you look at Nifty PE ratio, Nifty is somewhere at 22, 23 times. Some of the other segments or sectors are at some 40 times, 50 times. And if these guys can deliver on earnings, I think there is going to be a substantial value, in my view, that these large banks can generate. So clearly, these are the segment where we remain sort of overweight, I can say. I'm not saying that mid cap or small cap banks will not do that. There will be some pockets. I personally feel there will be some pockets where there are some banks which are going to give you a substantial increase in that pocket also. But you have to be quite selective when it comes to that area. So that is one. Large banks, we think, is the sector where we think earnings can bounce back quite sharply, especially from third quarter onwards, assuming there is no severe third wave. Second wave was pretty bad from economics perspective. I think we can avoid that. I think we are thereabouts. I think we should be okay in terms of for banking sector. The second sector, which I think is very cheap, is the last one which I have put, that is power generation and utilities. So that is where also we are sort of we think there is a substantial value or opportunity. There are two reasons. One is that valuation wise they are very cheap. Most of them are in, say, single digit P. But more than that, I think there is also structural sort of changes that we are going through. One is that in last 5-6 years, I don't think we have added enough power plants. So probably somewhere in 2023-24, we are going to see some bit of a power. So we are currently power surplus. So we might see some bit of a power sort of a deficit. So which means these guys are in a better position. Secondly, all this talk of EV and sort of that is also going to increase the demand for power. That is a second thing. And a lot of these companies, if you look at, they also have a what you call renewable power projects, pretty substantial, sizable renewable power projects. There, if you look at the global valuation of some of these renewable projects, there is one company called Renew Power, which listed on NYSE through SPAC. The valuation is quite mind-boggling. So any of these entities, they actually separate their sort of a renewable business. The valuation they can command is significantly high. So that is where we think that driven by cheap valuation and driven by the better earnings possibility, we think this segment also offers a decent value. And in between second and third, the IT companies and the industrial manufacturing automation, I will just spend 2 minutes on that. So clearly, large IT companies, if you look at their multiples and compare it with the mid cap and small cap IT companies multiple, what we are seeing is that the multiples of large IT companies is substantially lower. And if you look at the cash flow generation, so look at Infosys or TCS, whatever, you look at any large company, the kind of cash flow that they generate is phenomenal. And in these multiples are pretty relatively cheap compared to mid cap and small cap. That is why what we think is that we sort of think that there is some bit of a value in terms of large IT companies, because earnings growth is going to be quite strong or quite sustainable for next at least 3 to 4 years, because of whatever the changes we are seeing in the economy through cloud or the digital being a necessity for every businesses. So all these things will play out in favor of large IT companies. Valuation is at a little bit of the premium end, but I think if the earnings growth sustained, I think valuation should be also comfortable. And the last segment we think where there are going to be lots of opportunities is going to be the industrial manufacturing and automation. Lot of businesses are talking about automating their manufacturing process through robotics or through completely removing the manual intervention. And some of these companies that are listed in India, I think offers a substantial growth opportunity. valuation is not that cheap, but valuation is always remain expensive for these of some of these names. But we think next 3-4 years, the shift that we are going to see in this segment is going to be phenomenal. So I will say watch out for this space. I think there are going to be exciting opportunities to sort of to invest from an investor's perspective. So these are the broadly 4 sectors that we think there are decent opportunities still continue in large cap. We obviously have fair bit of exposure to some of these names also. Yeah, so this is broadly on this part. And the last part, which I think everyone's probably mind, what should one do at this point? Clearly, I think asset allocation is something extremely critical. I think platform like Groww definitely comes into that, comes into the picture. I think they are doing a phenomenal job. I think and I think I hope they will continue to do that, and that is where they can play a critical role. And once you cross that asset allocation part, depending upon your risk sort of behavior or your risk taking capability, I think the next best thing is to do is the SIP. So just to give example, when I took over the 2 funds, the first thing that I did was that I started my own SIP in those funds. Earlier, I was doing it with our own funds only, but I wasn't managing them directly. So what I did, I sort of started SIP in large cap fund, and there is one more fund which I manage, Young Citizen. There also I started my kids SIP there. So that is the best way to sort of create a wealth over a long-term period. I don't think there is any better way. I just do it consistently, regularly, without any breakage. I think 5 years, 6 years down the line, I think as an investor, I think one will be extremely happy what he has done when he looks back. And also, an important thing which I also do personally is that whenever there is a market volatility, use lump sum. So whenever market falls sharply, unfortunately, it has not happened in last 12 months probably, but whenever it happens, do lump sum. If you feel like taking out the profit whenever market goes up, take out those profits. The logic is simple. If world is going to come to an end, anyways, we are not going to need those funds. So, and if world is not going to come to an end, then invest in those times when things are at the bottom, and probably try to benefit out of that. So I think that is how I will end my session. If there are any questions, I will be happy to take, or we can move to our next session.
Thank you so much. Hello everyone. I will be talking to you about Groww as a product, what we offer, what we have. And I will be talking to you about the future roadmap of Groww, and that will be followed by the question and answer session where each of us will take questions from the audience. Of course, these questions, I'm primarily here to answer your questions about Groww, whereas the others are here to answer your questions about finance. So could you please stop sharing the presentation, Amey? Right. Okay. So just share my screen now. Right. So as most of you would already know, you can sign up on Groww using your phone or laptop, and it's 100% paperless. And it's, if your KYC is not done, we'll get it done for you. Something that I like to talk of is the new design that we have on Groww. Earlier, you had a bottom tab, and now that's no longer there. Bottom tab, there was U dashboard, and on the leftmost side, there was Explore. So now we've split it into these. Just one sec. I think there's an error here. Just give me a moment, please. Yeah, so I think, I'm sorry, I'll have to present without the slide. There's some error in this, which I'm not able to understand what happened, but I'll continue without the slide then. So as I was saying, one of the bigger changes that we've made recently is that there used to be at the bottom of the screen, there was an Explore dashboard and U tab. And now that's no longer there. We split that into mutual funds, stocks, and gold. And this we did so that we can accommodate future products that, as and when we launch, we can introduce. Besides that, going forward, everything else has remained the same on the app, and the design will remain largely the same. The mutual funds page will give you the information about your mutual funds. The stocks page will give you information about the stocks, and gold will give you information about gold. On the dashboard, which is whichever dashboard you go to, be it the stocks dashboard or the mutual fund dashboard or your gold dashboard, you will be able to see your own investments. So Explore is the screen that we've given to for you to explore the offerings that there are there. Like there'll be stuff like top gainers, top losers, other popular stocks that are being discussed. Likewise, on the mutual fund side, you'll have the mutual funds segregated based on different buckets. So you have low risk, high risk, tax saving, so on and so forth. So that's the Explore screen. Then when you switch to the dashboard screen, you end up on the screen that gives you information about your own mutual funds or your own stocks or your own gold. And using that, you can easily track your investments. You can see where you have invested, how much you've invested. When you click on more details, you can easily see the entire history of your investments in each stock or in each mutual fund. Now, there's another very popular feature on Groww, which you can access via the dashboard, which is called the import and switch. So import is all about bringing your mutual funds that are not on Groww to Groww. If you're new to Groww, you would have probably been investing on another platform or via someone else. And if you want to bring all your mutual funds, all your investments under one roof, under one platform, you can do so using this option, switch and track, import and switch. So first you'll have to import, and then you can switch them to direct, because many of these funds that are not on Groww are often regular plan where you're paying some kind of a commission. So if you want to stop paying the commission and start investing in direct plan, you can do that. So first you have to import, and then you have to switch. There's a newsletter that we run every day, Monday to Friday, and on weekends. This newsletter comes to your email. If you have signed up on Groww already, this email should be reaching you in your inbox. In case it is not, you can go to the this link that I'll tell you, groww.in/digest, where you can read these. These newsletters, Monday to Friday, they cover news and other tidbits, learn content that as a new investor, you might be very interested in. And the goal of this is that we want to make financial news and financial, generally speaking, finance easier to understand. So none of these digests ever contain any heavy jargon or any flowery language. They're all very simple, easy to understand, and very light. You won't have to spend half an hour reading that to understand that. So please do check out this link, groww.in/digest. And if you have any questions or queries, please reach out to us at support@groww.in, and we'll help you with whatever doubt you might have about the Groww as a platform, about other things that might be related to Groww. We'll try and help you out with that. If you are stuck somewhere, you can always use the help and support section to see if you find answers to the questions you have there. And in case you don't, if in case you don't find a resolution to the problem you were looking to solve, you can raise a ticket and reach out to us over call, email, or even chat. Please follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. YouTube, I encourage people to check out our YouTube because it has many of these videos that we upload. They're all very learner focused. So new investors tend to benefit a lot from the videos we upload on our YouTube channels. And we have, actually, it's not just English or Hindi. There are many other languages also that we have. Language, there might be a YouTube channel, Groww YouTube channel for you. So please do go and check them out. With that, I come to the end of my session. We'll start taking questions now.
So thanks, Shikhar. Thanks, Mr. Amey, for a very nice and insightful presentation. At least got a fresh perspective towards large cap as an investment category. So there are a couple of questions which is posted by the users. It'll be nice if you can answer a couple of those. First one being, अभी के market condition के हिसाब से, do you still suggest a large cap? If someone is looking to invest, you think it's still recommended now?
देखो, अभी आई एग्री विथ यू कि ओवरऑल मार्केट काफी एक्सपेंसिव लग रहा है, बट अगर आपको चूज ही करना है तो आई विल स्टिल सजेस्ट कि लार्ज कैप एटलीस्ट एट दिस पॉइंट काफी ठीक ठाक है, बिकॉज वैल्यूएशन तो अभी देखो, अब सबका एक्सपेंसिव है. आप मिड कैप की बात करो, स्मॉल कैप की बात करो, बट लार्ज कैप में एक अच्छा है कि वैल्यूएशंस आर नॉट स्ट्रेच्ड. देयर आर सम पॉकेट जहां पे लार्ज कैप में वैल्यूएशंस आर स्ट्रेच्ड, बट वो 100 स्टॉक्स में से अपने को तो पूरे 100 नहीं चाहिए, अपने को प्रोबेबली 40 चाहिए, 35 चाहिए स्टॉक्स. तो वो हिसाब से हम लोग ऐसे देख रहे हैं कि अभी टाइमिंग करना इज, मतलब आई रियली डोंट नो हाउ टू टाइम द मार्केट ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग, बट व्हाट वी कैन डू, वी कैन सॉर्ट ऑफ एग्जिट और लोअर एक्सपोजर जहां पे वैल्यूएशंस आर एक्सट्रीम, दैट मच वी कैन डू, एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ बिल्ड अ पोर्टफोलियो अराउंड दोज स्टॉक्स जहां पे हम लोग को लग रहा है कि इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ अगर पिकअप होती है तो these are the stocks where we will benefit. So that is how I will put it. I think, and lastly, it is also depending upon the investors' risk appetite. अगर उनका risk appetite अच्छा है, if he is ready to withstand the volatility, I think he can choose the way he wants. So that is how I will put it.
Sure. Just to pick it from where you left, आपने कुछ बताया, not all 100 stocks are like fairly valued. Some of them are stretched. वो पॉकेट्स क्या हो सकता है, if that you can probably discuss?
So I will talk about, मैं सेक्टर की बात ज्यादा करूंगा rather than कोई स्टॉक स्पेसिफिक नाम लेने से. तो एक कंज्यूमर सेक्टर एक है कि जहां पे क्लियरली वैल्यूएशन काफी स्ट्रेच्ड है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि उनका ग्रोथ पे कुछ इम्पैक्ट होगा, वो अभी भी 10-15% से ग्रो करते रहेंगे, दे विल कंटिन्यू टू डू देयर जॉब. बट अभी सम ऑफ देम आर एट 60 times, 70 times, 80 times. So for us, from investor perspective, for them to make money after investing at say 70 times, then they have to do spectacularly great things, and unke size ke hisab se they may not be able to do such a spectacular things which they did probably 7, 8, 10 years back. So that is where probably some bit of a discomfort है. लेकिन काफी सारे पॉकेट्स है जहां पे अभी भी वैल्यूएशन काफी सस्ता है. तो मैंने जो बैंकिंग सेक्टर का नाम लिया, तो उसमें आप अभी बैंकिंग सेक्टर में क्या है, काफी कुछ आता है. आपके एनबीएफसीज आते हैं, आपके बैंक्स आते हैं, बैंक्स में भी आते हैं आपके प्राइवेट सेक्टर बैंक्स आते हैं, पीएसयू बैंक्स आते हैं, अभी नए कैटेगरी आई है स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक. मतलब इट्स अ वेरी वास्ट ह्यूज कैटेगरी ऑफ स्टॉक दैट वी हैव. लेकिन उसमें प्योर प्ले जो बैंक्स है, बड़े वाले बैंक्स जो है, जहां पे हम लोग को काफी हद तक वैल्यूएशन कंफर्ट है. और अगर एज आई सेड कि जहां पे इकोनॉमी हैज गॉन थ्रू सो मेनी शॉक्स इन लास्ट 5 years, तो अगर इकोनॉमी यहाँ से कोई शॉक नहीं है, अगर स्टेडी स्टेट 4-5 साल तक चलती रही 7-8% से, तो ये जो नाम्स में जो सेक्टर जो है, दैट इज प्रोबेबली विल गिव यू डिसेंट बिट ऑफ रिटर्न्स. एंड जब स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट ऑफ द वैल्यूएशन इतना कंफर्टेबल होता है, आई थिंक रिटर्न्स आल्सो आर प्रीटी ब्यूटीफुल आउट देयर once when you look back say 2 years, 3 years down the line.
Sure. So I think next question वही था, what are some of the sectors? I think you covered that.
Yeah, so I think वो जो 4 सेक्टर की हम लोगों ने बात की, I think जहाँ पे तो हमारे फंड्स में भी आप देखोगे तो you will see some bit of overweight positions, not some bit, in fact fair bit of overweight position in some of those 4 sectors जहाँ पे हम लोग को लग रहा है कि काफी सारी. So मैं जब भी देखता हूँ, I always look at the earnings growth कैसी है. देखो वैल्यूएशन क्या है, वैल्यूएशन तो हर एक के जिसके नजर में जो है वो ठीक है, राइट. आपको कोई 50x वाला कंपनी भी अच्छा लगेगा, किसी को 10x वाला कंपनी भी खराब लगेगा. तो मैं क्या करता हूँ, मैं देखता हूँ कि अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ आ रहा है कि नहीं. आई थिंक दैट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर और पॉइंट टू फोकस ऑन. अगर मुझे कॉन्फिडेंस और मुझे कंफर्ट है कि यहाँ पे चलो यहाँ से भी अर्निंग ग्रोथ आना चालू हो जाएगा, देन वैल्यूएशन को देखो आप. अगर वैल्यूएशन भी सस्ता है उसमें, देन सोने पे सुहागा, मतलब दैट इज देयर इज नथिंग बेटर देन दिस. दैट इज हाउ वी विल प्रोबेबली वी आर पोजीशनिंग आवरसेल्व्स. And I think as you see, vaccination also picking up quite significantly. Last week में हम लोग 3 दिन I think 1.2 करोड़ का vaccination किया है. तो by November December अगर large proportion of population gets vaccinated, that also will give some bit of confidence. And Diwali, I'm saying from October November onwards we'll start to see impact कि festival का spending कैसे हो रहा है, consumer sentiments will be improve होंगे. So I think I think these are the sectors and segments where we think कि there is some bit of a money to be made maybe.
Sure. So I think large cap के ऊपर काफी हमने focus किया, cover किया है. Like as an investor point of view, I can't have only large cap in the portfolio.
Yeah.
अगर in general, you could answer in two levels. One, in general, large cap, mid cap, small cap का ratio क्या हो सकता है? अगर broad thumb rule किसी for an investor. And times like this can be a tactical strategy. Large cap, mid cap, small cap के लिए. What's your thought?
Yeah, so मैं आपका second question पहले लेता हूँ. I think you are right. I think tactically, definitely, it makes sense to probably have higher weightage to large cap, considering small cap और mid cap का इतना strong performance आया है. Because cycles आती है तो definitely small cap, mid cap में भी cycle आएगी कभी ना कभी. And अभी valuation भी इतना stressed out, मतलब I will not say कि everything is stressed out, but some of the cases जहाँ पे valuation stressed out है, expectation burden भी काफी ज्यादा है. तो as you said, tactically, definitely it makes sense to have some bit of a higher exposure to large cap. In terms of ratio, I think again boils down to वो customer और investor का risk appetite कैसा है. मैं personally बात करूँ तो मेरा खुद का, if you look at almost 65 to 70% of my mutual fund investment is into a large cap kind of a funds. That much I can say. So it also may be because I am managing a large cap, so there could be some bit of a bias also. Yeah, but so that is but that as of now that is the case.
Sure, great. So, but let's say now this phase is over, markets slowly come back to the valuation levels of sanity there. Then what ratio? Large cap, mid cap, small cap? आपको क्या?
तो आई थिंक आई विल स्टिल से कि 60% तक आप लार्ज कैप में तो इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए. सिंपली बिकॉज लार्ज कैप का बेनिफिट क्या है ना कि वो अक्रॉस द साइकिल आपको दर्द नहीं देता है. ठीक है, तो वो क्या है कि जब ऊपर जाता है तब काफी अच्छा लगता है, बट जब नीचे आता है तो काफी हर्ट होता है. तो वो लार्ज कैप में क्या है ना, वो आपको इतना हर्ट नहीं करता है. तो फ्रॉम अ इन्वेस्टर पर्सपेक्टिव ऑल्सो लार्ज कैप का वो जगह है और वो अपना रोल भी प्ले करता है अच्छी तरह से. और अब देखो अभी क्या है ना, अभी सब अच्छा चल रहा है, तो जैसे मैंने बताया वो डिविडेंड एंड कैश फ्लो एंड वो अभी कोई देख नहीं रहा है, बट देयर विल बी अ फेज जहां पे लोग उसके बारे में बात करेंगे. सो आई एम सो
यू इनफैक्ट पॉइंटेड द राइट पॉइंट, यू नो, जितना मार्केट ऊपर जाता है खुशी होता है, उससे ज्यादा दर्द होता है मार्केट नीचे जाता है. So we call it as notion of loss. I think as human beings we love to avoid losses. Yeah, I think that really makes sense. Yes.
So that is
just probably in continuation to this same topic now, there's always been that disconnect in the last 1 year or so, 1.5 year or so, that economy kaise kar raha hai versus how markets are doing. I think there's been a good deal of disconnected, right? I mean, immediately from May, June onwards, markets started rallying and so on. So will this rally continue? If yes, then what will push this rally from here further?
Okay, so first I will like to clarify कि इकोनॉमी का not necessarily अपना market represents the economy entirely. Probably market represents probably 25 to I don't know 30-35% of the economy. I don't know. I don't have any concrete number there, but it is not the complete reflection of what is happening in economy. And जहाँ पे भी reflection है तो I will probably point out करूँगा जैसे microfinance lenders है, वहां पे आप देखो पेन काफी जबरदस्त है, बिकॉज बॉटम ऑफ द पिरामिड जो अपना पॉपुलेशन है दे हैव बीन हर्ट वेरी बैडली. मतलब फ्यूल प्राइसेस ऊपर जा रहे हैं, इनकम्स हैव बीन इंपैक्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ लॉकडाउन. सो क्लियरली प्रेशर दिखता है, ऐसा नहीं है प्रेशर नहीं है. देयर आर टू थिंग्स हैव हैपेंड. एक हम लोग जो बोलते हैं ना फॉर्मलाइजेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमी, वो एक काफी हद तक हुआ है, स्पेशली ये लॉकडाउन के पीरियड पे. जैसे आपको मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि जैसे ये पेंट वाले कंपनीज का मैंने स्टार्टिंग में भी बताया. Last year, some of these large listed paint companies, they were able to offer all these PPE kits to their employees, and customer was okay to hire them rather than going for a local paint guy जिसके पास कुछ फैसिलिटी नहीं है, because they were worried about their safety. So I am saying वो जो market share gain हुआ है that is also driving a lot of this revenue growth or earning growth of some of these big companies or some of the market listed companies. That is how I will put it. So clearly वो एक reason भी है कि market अच्छा कर रहा है और economy थोड़ी struggle कर रही है और people थोड़े struggle कर रहे हैं. Because of that, the disconnect is there. But I think that disconnect will probably continue because as we become more and more digitalized, जो अभी दिख रहा है, आप देखोगे यूपीआई ट्रांजैक्शंस कितने जोर से हो रहे हैं. Lot of things, people are becoming more and more comfortable on using their mobile, doing the transactions on mobile. I think वो जो market share gain है informal to formal, वो काफी accelerate होता जाएगा. तो at some point of time you will see reflecting into stock market also, but only after it reaches a significant bit of a penetration. And the second question that you asked about, ये rally कब तक चलेगी, क्या चलेगी? I don't have answer honestly. Clearly liquidity is quite easy. काफी मतलब globally भी आप देखोगे कि अभी तो इंडियन वाले वो यूएस का ट्रेजरी हेड क्या बोलते हैं उस पे भी काफी ध्यान देते हैं वीकेंड पे. मतलब दिस इज काइंड ऑफ अफेक्शन वी हैव नाउ फॉर दोस गाइस. तो उस पे भी काफी डिपेंड है कि एट व्हाट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम की यूरोपियन सेंट्रल बैंक ने तो यूएस ट्रेजरी दे स्टार्ट टू विथड्रॉ द लिक्विडिटी. बट अगर आप आरबीआई के गवर्नर का स्टेटमेंट पढ़ोगे तो वो काफी यही बोल रहे हैं कि रिकवरी अभी भी फुल फ्लेज नहीं है. रिकवरी अभी भी सॉर्ट ऑफ टेंटर रूट्स पे है, तो और सपोर्ट देने की जरूरत है. तो इसका मतलब ये भी हो सकता है कि जो लूज मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी जो अभी ये लोग कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं, दैट कैन कंटिन्यू फॉर सम मोर क्वार्टर्स. ऑनेस्टली आई डोंट हैव व्यू कि ये रैली कब तक चलेगी, बट सम ऑफ दिस फैक्टर्स आर डेफिनेटली ड्राइविंग दिस रैली. तो it may go for some more period, but we don't know honestly.
Yeah, I know. In fact, already with US Treasury saying we will start tapering probably from this year or say next year. I think वो liquidity का जो हम जो frequency देख रहे हैं, I think that could probably come down a bit if Federal Reserve starts tapering.
Yeah. तो मैं आपको इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट का एग्जांपल देता हूँ. अगर आप डिपॉजिट ग्रोथ देखोगे सिस्टम का, वी आर रनिंग अराउंड 11% काइंड ऑफ अ नंबर. और अगर आप लोन ग्रोथ देखोगे, वी आर रनिंग एट अराउंड 6% काइंड ऑफ अ नंबर. एंड दैट गैप ऑफ 5% काफी हद तक चलता है, मतलब लास्ट 2 साल से चलता आ रहा है. और एक देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड रिवर्स रेपो विंडो जो आरबीआई रन करता है. जो भी एक्सेस लिक्विडिटी होती है बैंकों के पास, वो आरबीआई के वो बैंक दे देते कि भैया आप संभालो, हम लोग तो लोन दे नहीं जा रहे. तो वो जो नंबर लास्ट ईयर, दैट नंबर वाज अराउंड 6 लाख करोड़, 6.5 लाख करोड़ का नंबर हुआ करता ऑन एन एवरेज. लास्ट 1.5 महीने में, 1 महीने में वो नंबर इज नाउ टचिंग ऑलमोस्ट 7.5 लाख करोड़, 8 लाख करोड़. तो मार्केट में लिक्विडिटी बहुत, बिकॉज डिपॉजिट रेट्स आर लो. ठीक है, बैंक्स के पास अभी भी क्रेडिट ग्रोथ पिकअप नहीं हो रहा है. इट विल होपफुली स्टार्ट प्रोबब्ली फ्रॉम अक्टूबर नवंबर ऑनवर्ड्स. बट अभी भी बिकॉज एसेट क्वालिटी प्रेशर है, तो एवरी एंटायर फोकस इज ऑन रिकवरीज. तो अगर आप किसी भी न्यूज़पेपर निकालो, आपको सरफेसी के बड़े बड़े एड्स दिखेंगे, ये प्रॉपर्टी बिक रही है, वो गोल्ड लोन बिक रहा है. तो जब वो फेज हम लोग क्रॉस करेंगे, जब लोन ग्रोथ आएगा, देन प्रोबब्ली यू विल सी सम बिट ऑफ लिक्विडिटी कमिंग डाउन. बट लिक्विडिटी सिस्टम बहुत मैसिव है. देयर इज वन मोर मैट्रिक यू कैन लुक एट, वो कैश इन सर्कुलेशन. That is also at one of the highest that we have seen in last few years.
So one, I think a very simple question for a 25-year-old. So one of the audience is 25-year-old. Considering the current market levels, what should be the strategy you think he should follow?
I think SIP is the best way. So I also do that personally. And if market falls irrationally, lump sum करो. तो मैं तो यही करता हूँ, बिकॉज देन इट बूस्ट योर रिटर्न. नहीं तो कभी भी एसआईपी का भी कभी भी, अभी मार्केट इतना वोलेटाइल हो गया है ना कि एक वीक में मार्केट कैन गिव यू 10%, नेक्स्ट वीक में इट कैन फॉल 10%. तो आपका एसआईपी रेट उस दिन पड़ा तो यू विल बेनिफिट. आई एम सेइंग कि द मूव्स आर आल्सो वेरी शार्प. लॉन्गर पीरियड में वो आपको शार्प दिखेंगे नहीं, बट जो डेली और वीकली मूव्स है, दे आर वेरी शार्प. सो उसमें अगर आप कभी मार्केट गिरता है 10%, 8%, आई डोंट नो, तभी लमसम. And then when that recovers, you sell that, make a profit and move on.
Great. So thank you so much, Amey. I think it's been a very interactive and a lively session. जो examples आपने दिया, very very relevant from the market point of view. Got to learn a lot. So thanks for being part of this. Thanks, Shikhar. So thank you everyone for being part of this. Happy, great weekend ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks.
Thank you.